Welcome. So first thing, Wi-Fi. So just bunged it up here. If you want to get on the Wi-Fi, you can use the Wi-Fi. So I'm Gavin Barton. I'm the head of software engineering and architecture here at Rental Cars. So I've been here about nearly a year now. So I joined sort of July last year, and my role here is to run the software engineering, test function, MIS, architecture. We're looking at the whole sort of way we're sort of building and engineering software. So I'm going to talk about the journey that we're going on through sort of the transformation from a company that has been a startup for the past 10 years. We've grown to $1 billion business, and some of that legacy that we've sort of carried through. So I'm going to start off with just a couple of minutes just talking about the company a little bit, just to give you a bit of background. So I'm just going to show you a quick vid. Okay, so last year we started to do a bit of advertising because we're a relatively unknown business in terms of car rentals. So, but just to give you an idea, we're the third largest e-commerce company in the world. So we operate in 167 countries around the world. We've got 40,000 locations. We take over 7 million bookings. So it's really grown, this business here. And part of the technology drive and part of the reason why I'm here at Rental Cars is to really sort of help us grow up from the place where we were as a small startup into a really sort of large sort of organisation that's well disciplined around its test and engineering practices. So, you know, we've got a hell of a journey. There's about nearly 200 people working sort of technology now here. You know, and we're growing all the time, so I can imagine us being about sort of 350. You know, we've taken over all 6 floors here. So it's a little bit about us, so I'll just jump onto the testing bit now, so that's what you're here for. So just a little bit about where my head is at. So I've worked in software nearly 20 years. I think the thing for me in the last few years is testing as a discipline, I would say, is sort of evolved. It's sort of grown up in many respects. So the testers are no longer the people at the end of the line doing the checking. They are the people who are sort of working and engineering quality into the solutions, because, you know, customers these days, they expect the solutions, they expect stuff to work, basically. Fast feedback, Twitter, all the social media, everything now encourages, you know, a really, really good user experience. And, you know, the testers, we're moving from a place where, you know, right at the very end to right at the very beginning now, where they're sort of shaping the requirements, feeling part of the team, and really sort of getting the source, because how good the requirement is how good the deliverable is and all that kind of stuff. It's not the guys at the end of the line being blamed for doing the crap testing and so forth. You know, it's just, that's not where it is now, and that's not really where I want it to be, and that's not what it's going to be like in our company as we sort of evolve. The other thing that's quite interesting is non-functionals. So everybody's interested in non-functionals. You kind of go a bit performance testing, but it's a bit more than that now. You have to ingrain all that stuff right into the whole engineering practice. Okay, so it's not just does your page load in 2 seconds. There's stuff about circuit breakers, failure. You know, we're in an AWS cloud-based world. A lot of companies, you know, we've got 24/7 operation. Our operation's 24/7. So how do I stop my devs at 3 in the morning being woken up by a tech support alarm or whatever? You know, so engineering NFRs right into the heart of the whole dev cycle. So to give you an idea, so at the Beeb, so I used to work at the Beeb before here, so I was responsible for BBC homepage, and I was also responsible for a lot of the knowledge and learning sites. We moved to a DevOps model in a year we had one call out of ours. And that's because we engineered NFRs into the whole sort of build cycle. No, doesn't mean we didn't have problems, but the thing failed gracefully. So a real strong focus on NFRs and sort of engineering that quality in. Focus on live experience of the user, so quick DevOps, that kind of stuff, but understanding what the experience and how the users sort of interact is really important. And the other thing for me is, as the testing world has evolved, there is no silver. So some of the stuff I'm going to tell you today isn't the textbook. You know, it's kind of what I've learned. There's no silver bullet. There's a lot of people, a lot of emotion, a lot of empathy, a lot of legacy, as most people come across in tech, that you all have to deal with. So there's no sort of one single answer to getting testers from what we call caveman to spaceman. Okay, so our vision here, rental cars, quality is going to be ingrained into everything we do. So we're not going to talk about quality. It's just part of the way we do stuff. Kind of don't, you know, we don't really want to have testers and developers. We have engineers. They build it. It's all part of the process. We have our testers embedded into the teams now. We're very customer and user centric. So we're a big A/B business. So what I mean by that is we do A/B testing we release about 20 A/B tests a day, and we feedback on those. You know, half an hour if that test fails, we'll pull it. We'll be monitoring user activity. So our whole testing model and thinking about it is, you know, we need to put the customer, the user experience first. And we have a big enough challenge in the car industry with people renting cars and bad terms and conditions and all that kind of stuff, you know, and we're trying to, you know, we don't want to make it worse by having a bad car rental experience through the site. So there's a lot of stuff that we are sort of really heavily working on. Continuous delivery, so yeah, it's a buzzword, but for us that is, you know, an agile business. We want to keep releasing all the time, sort of 2-3 day cycle times on features, embedding that all in. So, and then sort of small releases, so the deltas of feedback. So all of this is, so for me, a lot of this is around engineering practices and the way we build stuff. So I'm not going to talk today strictly just about testing only, because it isn't all about testing to build good software now. It's about the whole engineering lifecycle. So where we are, bit of a car crash, okay? Quite literally, so when I got here sort of last July, okay, we have a separate testing team. We don't test everything. In fact, we test our website release and we test our booking system and our call center system. We've got about 70, 80 different systems. The rest of them we don't test because we didn't have capacity. We have 3 testers to 60 odd developers, which isn't very many. We've now sort of tripled. We're now running towards a ratio of about 6 to 1. We're trying to get to a ratio of about 3-4 devs to 1 tester. We only limited CI, so when I started, we didn't really have CI, we didn't have test automation in place. Tests aren't controlled and versioned. Our test infrastructure, you know, it's there, but it's substandard, it's suboptimal. It doesn't really sort of meet the purpose of what we want to do, which is sort of continuous delivery, continuous iteration. Still, that sounds bad, but it's actually for business and the way we work as a business, because the ethos and the people and the culture we have here, you know, very quick, rapid. We don't have a site that breaks that much. It's just not, you know, there's a lot of reactiveness to make sure the site works, especially in peak and so forth. So we want to make it, you know, the environment and get it to a place where our testing is well controlled, our sites will work really well, because then we can go faster. We can get stuff out the door faster. So in terms of our focus, so we're focusing on a few different things, okay? So when I came into this business, I started with a capability review. So I looked at testing, engineering. I basically gave my engineering managers, test team, about 100 different questions to answer, which we use something called sort of CMMI, so sort of a level sort of 1 to 5, which gives you a view on how good, how mature the sort of processes are. So that gave us an idea of what we wanted to focus on first. So we've got areas such as non-functionals, functional testing, test management, releases, all that kind of stuff. So kind of rolled that up to give us what we call sort of our sort of transformation plan. Got an 18-month plan, so it's going to take longer than 18 months to rebuild, re-platform everything, but actually to get us to a place where we are in a DevOps world, we've got infrastructure as code, we've got test automation across a number of teams. It's about an 18-month plan. So the first bit for us was, which was last year, we set the team up. And then we're now into sort of team structure, agile practices, tooling, and then towards the end of this year, it will be into a DevOps. I'll talk a bit more about that in a bit. The other interesting thing is you can't change a team to be more agile and better quality. If you're going faster or slower than the business, you've kind of got to keep at the same pace as the business, because the business will just fall out with you. It's one that I've seen is forgotten quite a lot, and it happens a lot with technology teams where IT leads the change, then the business wonders what went on, and then vice versa. So it's really, really important to keep the business aligned with the transformation program. So we've kind of grouped our things into three things. So people, systems, process. Okay, around sort of the process, so we've got quality engineering that right into sort of the way we sort of build software. The developers need to own the quality, along with the BAs, along with the testers. It's not just the tester that owns the quality. Agile delivery, tooling, so having the right tooling in place, things like Selenium maybe, or some test automation, test tools, all that kind of stuff. Systems, so not only do you think about the test process, the quality, the engineering, but we've also got systems around resilience, adaptability. So I talked earlier about circuit breakers or failure and dealing with failure, how the systems deal with failure. So not only do the software engineers, but the testers need to sort of think of ways to break the system, and then how do the devs sort of code and make the system sort of deal with those ideas. We also have something called engineering defaults as well. So engineering defaults cover best practice, so it covers, so we don't say standards, we say defaults, because defaults are a better way of doing it, because if the standards are in place, people feel constrained, whereas a default, somebody could override that. So that is NFRs, so performance sort of metrics, some security, maybe some number of calls, some other quality metrics. We've sort of bundled that up into NFRs. But architecture roadmap, and then the thing at the bottom, which is the most important thing, is people. So how do we innovate, build the culture of the right people in the team so that people feel like they're engaged in the process? Because I've now got 115 in my team, and I've got to shift all those people along in terms of moving us along in terms of the process of getting better at what we do, but at the same time they need to be all engaged. And so it's a tough nut to crack. Training, career development, so training isn't cheap, and it's not that everybody's got different training sort of requirements these days. Some people like to do e-learning, some people like to go courses and so forth. So we do lots of different things around training. So I'll talk a bit about that, and innovating as well. So how do we sort of innovate? And again, I'll cover that in a bit. So start with people. So what we've done is we've created product-based teams. So agile business, we don't sell software, we build software for our own business. So it's a lot easier for us in some respects. But we've built product-based teams. We've improved the collaboration model by getting all the teams to sit together. So we get the testers a part of the team. We've got the devs, the BAs, the product owners, everybody who needs to sort of work on that as working together as a unit. Now we haven't finished rolling all that stuff out, because I've got about 18, 20 teams. So we're running sort of the full model probably across about 4 teams, because we've got to recruit, find the people, get people trained up in terms of the ways of working. But some teams are running hybrid, some teams are running full in the model. We are sort of career paths. So this is one of the things that I've tried to do, is protect the test discipline in terms of giving the testers an idea of where they sit in the organisation. So i.e. there's a route for a tester all the way up to my position, the CIO's role in the business. So we start off with sort of a tester at the apprentice level, right through to senior tester, principal, test lead, test manager, and so forth. So that's given the team a bit of stability about they know where they fit in the organisation, they know how to move through the organisation, they know some of the things that we expect from them, and some of the things that they expect from their peers, colleagues, and so forth. That's gone pretty well. We finished that rollout in March this year, so we've sort of completed that for my team. And so the other thing is about roles and responsibilities. So hand in hand with that is sort of clearing up some roles and responsibilities about who owns things, and sort of getting the team to work together. So again, sort of people who know what they need to do and how they sort of fit, get the teams to feel who owns what. So for example, for our systems, creating the product teams, rather than having sort of the 80, 90 odd systems we have, each team knows what they own now and knows what their responsibility is to look after it, rather than having one person owning all these different things or not really clear. So that's been really, really important for us. Raising awareness of quality. So lots of work in the teams around starting to think around how do we start unit testing, TDD, starting to think about engineering quality and right at the very, very beginning. And sharing knowledge. So I talk about innovation, so hack days, we do some brown bread lunch, lightning talk. So on the top of this building we've got this place called the Beach, which has got pool tables and sort of canteen area and stuff, and we do sort of lightning talks and things up there where people can come and sort of share and talk and share knowledge. So that's some of the stuff we've done around the people. Systems wise, okay, so I talked about no CI. So in the first 3 months I got everybody to move on to Bamboo CI. So every single system that we had a build pipeline. Okay, there's no sort of test automation built into that yet in terms of the time, but now we're moving on to unit testing being part of the builds. We're just moving our web release process over to doing daily. So right now our web release process works in a weekly. We're now moving it into a daily sort of release process. So using the CI there to put Selenium testing in. Sonar's a good tool. You've got to do a bit of tuning and tweaking with it, but it kind of helps with the standards and the quality engineering. Again, telling people are they writing good code and sort of how that sort of works. Selenium Grid is a good tool, so probably most people know about Selenium Grid, but I've used Browser Stack, I've used Source Labs, I've used internal ones. And we're going to go with probably the Browser Stack Source Labs here because of getting the sort of the management of different sort of versions of devices and all that kind of stuff. But having a Selenium Grid is really useful for a website and being able to do different sort of testing. The challenge is layout testing. We haven't solved that. But functional testing, it's really, really good sort of Selenium. Runbook. So the concept of a runbook is, if you've come across them, it's almost like an ops manual. It tells you how the release procedures for the site, the quality, the checks, can give a bit of an overview of the architecture. It's something that tells all the different teams who owns it, how to look after it, how to build it, how to release it, how to get going with it. So again, these are really good sort of basic, whilst they don't sound like quality testing things, they're good things because it encourages ownership and people to be aware of the things they need to do when they release software, check it, find it, fix it, all that kind of stuff. Health checks. So as we test our software, we want to know what fails, right? So how do we know what fails in the software? So over this point of system health checks, so what breaks, what doesn't break, and so forth. So that plugs into our live app monitoring. Our testers test those health endpoints. We can fail on those things. So all of our critical booking path. So when you go and book a car, with this we only finished doing this about 3 weeks ago, but we've put it into the whole booking path, so we know that when, say, the card system, card vault, something like that goes down. Test reporting. So I've used TestRail before. We started to use it here as well. It's quite a good product. We've had so I talked before about our test cases being uncontrolled, test management, that kind of stuff. So we're using that as just a place to put all of our test cases together, test conditions, sort of manage that pretty well. So that's and that integrates nicely. We use the sort of the Atlassian stack, so that integrates nicely with Jira as well. Okay, so process-wise, tidying the releases up. So what we want to get to is a full DevOps team. So what we started with was not an ITIL thing, but a very, very controlled release process. People do a weekly release, goes to a release board, gets people talk. The key thing about releasing is people just need to have a chat, and they need to have a chat about what they're doing, what they're going to change, what they're going to break, and how they're going to test it, and how they're going to roll it back. That kind of stuff. It's kind of 101 stuff, but not everybody sees it as 101. It's just, people are sometimes so much in a rush to get stuff out the door, they forget that if it goes wrong, how do we recover and how do we check it's right and so forth. So a lot of work has gone into the release process. Now we generally we have some failures, but it's generally failures in test, not failures actually in the release. We don't, in terms of live release failures, probably maybe 1 or 2 a month rather than every day sort of thing. Training and new encouragement. So TDD, so test-driven development. So starting to get people to think around test when they write the code, sort of the red, green refactor, that kind of stuff. Dev's responsibility as well as sort of testers' responsibility to think around quality. BDD is a good technique if you've used BDD. It's more of a sort of looking at the behaviour and the user sort of centric side of things. It helps with sort of reducing the amount of testing you do, because a lot of people will do loads and loads of unit testing and then it's really, really hard to maintain. You've got to think about the sort of the 80-20 rule, 80% sort of the value to 20% of the effort. So a lot of places I've seen do huge automation stacks and it takes hours and hours to either run or maintain and stuff. So BDD it's not going to fix that completely, but it's a sort of a nice sort of abstraction layer of things as well. Automating our release. So I've talked about our web release a little bit. So we're automating that, so we get that down with a sort of a critical path bookings, sort of journeys and so forth. So we've got our product owners map out the core journey through the site, and then we're going to put those through Selenium so we can test the functionality really, really quickly. Which comes on to sort of a live smoke test in regression. NFRs, I've talked a bit about that already, but every team has got an idea what default NFRs they should be thinking about for their areas, whether it's web services, whether it's front end, whether it's mobile. We need to mature in that quite a lot here, but we need the infrastructure, the services, the tools, and all that kind of stuff to come along with us. Okay, so things we've learned. Team structures, we just need to keep iterating on that stuff. I did version 1 of our product groups in August, version 2 in January, we'll do another version, and we just keep iterating and changing that and getting it better. That's getting the business to work with us. Not all the businesses, as I said before, are the same pace. So recruitment, finding testers, finding engineers is tough. I've gone from 3 testers, I think I said, in the team, to we've got 12 testers now, and we're still growing with testers. But to find the testers with the right sort of skills that we're looking for to sort of bring some of that stuff along, it takes time, and not everybody's looking for jobs and all that kind of stuff as well. So it's tough, and people need the support as well. So because we've had a very manual test process here, is you're trying to educate the team to go from caveman to sort of spaceman. You need people who've got the experience as well. You can't just send everybody on the training course because then they'll get how to test. You've got to get people in to coach them, support them, take them through the journey of how to do sort of good test engineering right into the beginning. I think the hardest bit for us is around shaping the requirements. So it's really getting the requirements small enough, testable enough, and so that people are really, really clear. And that's probably one of the biggest and hardest challenges. I had that problem similar at the Beeb, same sort of challenge here, and that's probably take us the longest to fix, really, in terms of the whole process. So, a couple of things. So what's next for us? Okay, get more test engineers in. Sort of shipping our web code daily. Sorting out our legacy. So some people may sort of say, well, what are we going to do with all of our legacy, and sort of you're going to buy some sort of HP Quality Center, all that kind of stuff. No, we're not. We're going to have our product teams own what they need, or own what they own, should we say. They'll test what they need to test, and they'll throw the rest away. So, I've seen a lot of teams spend a load of time trying to automate and do test automation on everything, and basically 2 years later, they're still trying to do it and still trying to finish it. We need to understand what's the most valuable thing to put that automation across. We know our release process for web is important, so we're doing that. But other stuff, we may just rewrite it first instead, and then we can rewrite it with good sort of engineering practices. So DevOps, so getting testers, developers, infrastructure people all to work together in a sort of continuous integration environment, infrastructure as code, and just automating more. So we're aiming for about sort of 90%-ish automation across things. So that's not necessarily 90% unit test coverage. That might be 90% coverage around sort of BDD or sort of Selenium and so forth. I'd be careful around 100% unit testing, because you're not getting the sort of the 80-20 rule, and you just have to maintain that stuff as well. So that's it. Whirlwind. So I think for us is, just to wrap up, it's that bringing testing forward isn't about a test tool. It's about sort of bringing the business, the engineering quality, and the entire sort of test discipline and integrating it into sort of software engineering. So that's why I'm really, really keen to call it engineering and not dev and test. Thanks so much.